How's it going, everyone? How are you doing today? I'm going over my 5 highlights of the week. We have a huge win for Ajax. We have Pele turning 80, the huge freaking Brazilian legend. Josep Maria Bartomeu finally resigning as president from Barcelona. Benzema's rant against Vinicius Jr. and Bundesliga banning fans for the rise of COVID-19 in Germany. And to get right into it, like I mentioned, Ajax had a huge 13-0 win over Venlo in the Eredivisie, the Dutch league. Lassina Traore for Ajax scored 5 goals. He's the first to do that for Ajax since Marco van Basten in 1985, the legend Marco van Basten. And this was their biggest league win, however, not their overall biggest win. That was a 14-0 win in the 1984-1985 UEFA Cup, which was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the precursor to the Champions League. This win actually tops all of the biggest wins across the Big Five, across the Premier League, Bundesliga, Liga 1, Serie A, and La Liga. It tops all their biggest wins. And of course, when you bring up a win like this, the conversation becomes, was this disrespectful to your opponents? Should you have let up off the gas pedal? And honestly, for me personally, I think it would be disrespectful to let up. You go 100%. Like, if you've ever played, what do your coaches always tell you? They tell you go 100% from start to finish, from the first whistle to the last whistle. And so I think not giving them that respect, not showing them you're 100% would be disrespectful in its own right. And I believe that, I don't really have an issue running up the score, to be honest. Especially when you consider how important goal differential can be nowadays. I mean, this is a huge... they're tied right now with Vitesse at the top of the table, but they have a massive goal differential lead over them. So should it, Vitesse and Ajax keep doing this, right, neck and neck throughout the whole season, then ultimately that huge goal differential will make the difference. And I don't have a huge issue with the big scoreline, because in actuality, where you believe that they're not really showing respect, they truly are, by giving the other team 100%, nothing but 100%, and not letting up. So ultimately, in my opinion, it's always the other team's fault for not being prepared, for making it too easy for the other team. And even the manager for Venlo admitted that. He said we had too much respect for Ajax and we let them have everything too easy. So ultimately, it's our fault. And I don't think that this was a big issue regarding disrespecting your opponent. It always comes up whenever there's a huge, monumental win like this. But you don't see anyone talking about Spurs disrespecting Manchester United or Aston Villa disrespecting Liverpool. So, I know this is a massive scoreline, but you don't ever really see that when teams win by 5-6 goals, and there's no conversation about that. But yeah, this is a huge win for Ajax, and they are currently top of the table, tied with Vitesse, ahead on goal differential, like I mentioned. Now, my number 2, legendary Brazilian Pele turned 80 this last Friday, October 23rd. He is a 3-time World Cup winner. Of course, he spent his birthday with his family. No party, which is the way to do it, in my opinion. He has, in recent years, he has had some health complications, but it's great to see that one of, if not the very best players in the world, is still kicking, still here, still doing his best. And especially with all the charity work he's done off the pitch, he's just such a great human being, and was a fantastic player. Like I mentioned, he won the World Cup of Brazil in 1958, 1962, and 1970. Still the only player across men's and women's soccer to have won 3 World Cups. He's the highest goal scorer for Brazil with 77 goals in 92 appearances. Neymar is I believe 63 goals, so he's getting close. Including non-official matches, he scored 1,281 career goals in 1,363 appearances. With Santos, the club he spent most of his career with in Brazil, he scored 643 goals, the most by a player for a single club. I forgot to get his appearances, and I believe it was around 670, which means in his career, he averaged almost a goal a game for Santos, which is crazy to think about. Of course, he went to New York Cosmos after his career with Santos in the MLS, which gave more attention to the MLS, and then you had other players like Beckham, and then, most recently Ibrahimovic coming to the MLS, which is proving that the club's actually kind of garnering some attention finally. And with Santos, though, he was so popular during his time that when he was with Santos, he traveled, Santos pretty much tried to take advantage of his popularity, not in a bad way, but like for good publicity for the club. They even went to Nigeria, where a civil war was going on, and both sides agreed to a 48-hour ceasefire just so they could all watch him play. It's mind-blowing. And if that doesn't tell you what kind of respect he garnered during his time, while he was playing, then honestly, I don't know what will. He's a legend in the game and will always be a legend in the game. Now, number 3, Josep Maria Bartomeu, the former president for Barcelona, and his executive board have finally resigned after all the drama that has surrounded Barcelona. He's resigned, especially with that vote of no confidence looming large in the coming months. His relationships with just about anyone who had any kind of association with the club, with Barcelona, was just strained. It was strained to just completely gone. Like he supposedly tried to do what was best for the club, especially when it came to Messi, and by keeping Messi. But in turn, he just completely obliterated that relationship between him and Messi, and pretty much any trust that Messi had in the Barcelona execs. He did that. That was him. And he described his exit as serene, even though I personally think it was anything but. And the problem is honestly, he thought that it was good keeping Messi, but if Bartomeu had stayed, honestly, the entire time Bartomeu would have been at the club, Messi's future would have stayed uncertain. All the players' futures would have stayed uncertain. You have players like Piqué who've talked up against the execs, and the players clearly weren't happy with the management, with the higher ups more so. And essentially, from player relationships to transfers to financial issues, he just could never right the ship for Barcelona. He could never really find the answers. He could never fix anything that's happened for Barcelona in the past 5 years, anything negative in the past 5 years. And it just kind of seemed like he was trying to see how far he could run Barcelona into the ground, which is why I think there's a bit of relief now that he's left amongst Barcelona fans and players alike. And Barcelona already responded positively by winning a massive game against Juventus with a 2-0 win, with Dembele and of course Messi both scoring, both shining in that game. And it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how Barcelona respond, whether this actually affects their play, whether they actually get crazy enough to go on like a nice streak or something like that. But it'll be interesting to see how Barcelona respond, and I just think it's finally, the drama's finally over for Barcelona, and they can move on and focus on rebuilding and getting back to the top where honestly they rightfully belong. Now, speaking of Barcelona, their rivals Real Madrid also had a game in the UCL against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and during the first half of the game, Vinicius Jr, a winger for Real Madrid, was having just a poor game. He had no impact on the game. Anytime he touched the ball, it just seemed like he was going to go nowhere. So at halftime, Karim Benzema, the striker for Real Madrid, was caught on camera telling Ferland Mendy, the fullback for the right back specifically. I think he was playing right back, or was he playing? I think he was playing left back. Vinicius Jr was playing left wing. Benzema was caught telling Mendy at halftime during Real Madrid's game versus Borussia, and I quote, "Don't play with him. On my mother's life, he, Vinicius, is playing against us. He does not do anything useful." And Mendy was caught replying, "When he becomes scared, he loses what makes him great," end quote. Now, both Mendy and Benzema were also later seen talking to Vinicius Jr. on the pitch, though no one picked up what they were saying. And with this whole situation, on one hand, this is something that can benefit the team, right? It's something that can benefit the team, prevent someone who is just not having a positive impact on the game from having any more negative impact on the game. Vinicius was having it just wasn't his day. It just wasn't his day, and therefore that's Benzema's resolution, was to not pass to him. On the other hand, you're almost conspiring against your own teammate and going behind his back, when maybe you should voice those concerns to your manager, the person who's actually in charge of the subs and can make that substitution, which honestly, I don't think Zidane made that substitution until later. So I think maybe voicing those concerns to him would have maybe sped it up. And I don't think this was something that came with malice. I don't think Benzema was out there trying to be selfish and say, don't pass it to, Vinicius, pass it to me because I want the ball, I want to shoot, I want to score. I think it's more so he just recognized how Real Madrid can turn the game around, because at that point, I believe they were down 2-0, and they had to turn the game around. And like I mentioned, I don't think there was any selfish intent behind it or malice behind it. I think he was just trying to find a way to benefit the team. Now, the stats did show that Benzema had 3 passes in the first half to Vinicius Jr., but after, you know, all that happened in the second half, not a single pass to Vinicius Jr. Now, again, I don't think it was something that was with malicious intent. However, it could have a negative impact on Vinicius' mindset. It's a matter of how he can respond to that poor game and how he comes back out of the breaks. Maybe, I mean, if I were Benzema, I would try and talk to the guy, you know, just after the game, do a little mentoring. You know, you're older, you're both forwards, true, and, you know, you can use that experience to try and mold this younger player and help him get through tough times. You know, if I were Benzema, that would be me trying to mentor our younger players, because in the long run that would benefit Real Madrid and would help the player grow, not only as a player but as a human, and grow his mentality, his mindset, and help him deal, you know, with having poor performances. I'm sure he's a professional, so I'm sure he can deal with it, but, you know, here having some reassurance from an older player could be beneficial. Now, for my fifth and final highlight of the week, Bundesliga has officially banned fans from games due to the COVID-19 rise in Germany. A second wave of COVID-19 has hit Germany, forcing all sports to be played behind closed doors. This measure will take place on November 2nd. So the games that are going to happen this weekend, the weekend of the, you know, Halloween, 31st, 31st and the 1st of November, those can still take place with fans, because again, the measure doesn't go into effect until November 2nd. Now, the Bundesliga for now is avoiding completely shutting down the league, although if it gets that bad, I could see it changing, especially if there are outbreaks within Bundesliga teams. And if the cases were to get worse, then clubs would, if cases were to get worse and the league gets shut down, clubs really begin to struggle financially with, I mean, there are clubs like Schalke, Werder Bremen, and Mainz that are already in a bad place financially, so you can imagine what a shutdown would do to them. And if it can be avoided, I think they should keep going. However, again, if there's some kind of outbreak within a couple clubs, then that might be the only option, and unfortunately these Bundesliga teams might just have to deal with it and just wait until it passes and just hope and pray that they, you know, are able to get through without, you know, losing much. Although that in the world of soccer, that's kind of impossible, but with all these teams across, you know, the world losing so much money already, then, you know, league shutting down is the worst thing that can happen. But ultimately, I think that might just be the answer for the Bundesliga. Again, should there be some kind of outbreak amongst the teams, I believe that they should isolate on their own for now and just kind of keep away from any fans. Just sort of not necessarily bubble, but bubble, if that makes sense, and do your best, because ultimately it's going to come down to the players and the clubs to make sure that the Bundesliga doesn't get canceled. It's up to them to stay safe and keep themselves healthy in order to keep their league going. But yeah, those are my top 5 highlights of the week. What do you think about Ajax's win over Venlo? Do you think it was disrespectful? Do you think they should have let up off their opponents? Do you love Pele as much as I do, the legend? Do you think he's the greatest player of all time? Do you think, you know, someone like Messi, Ronaldo, are they above him? If so, why? What are your thoughts? You know, why do you think that? Josep Maria Bartomeu finally resigns. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's going to be beneficial for Barcelona? Do you think they're going to have a positive response after he leaves? I mean, they've already started off well with that huge win over Juventus. Or do you think it's going to negatively impact the club? Do you think Benzema's rant against Vinicius Jr. was justified? Do you think he was trying to help the team? Did it have any kind of selfish intent behind it? Did he want goals for himself? What are your thoughts on his rants against Vinicius Jr.? And what are your thoughts on Bundesliga fans, you know, being banned due to COVID-19? What are your thoughts on sports continuing despite everything that's going on? I would like to know. I'm a bit curious about that. But yeah, those are my top 5 highlights of the week. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Go check out the socials in the description. My Twitter is @BlueHermit1. My Instagram is @BlueHermit_. Please share the socials with all your friends, family, everybody you know. Let people know Blue Hermit's where it's at. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.